The Rooster and the Pearl. A rooster was once strutting up and down the farmyard among the hens when suddenly he espied something shining amid the straw. "Ho, ho!" quoted he, "that's for me," and soon rooted it out from beneath the straw. What did it turn out to be but a pearl that by some chance had been lost in the yard? "You may be a treasure," quoted the rooster, "to the men that prize you, but for me, I would rather have a single barley corn than a peck of pearls. Precious things are for those who can prize them." The Wolf and the Lamb. Once upon a time, a wolf was lapping at a spring on a hillside, when looking up, what should he see but a lamb just beginning to drink a little lower down. "There's my supper," he thought, "if only I can find some excuse to seize it." Then he called out to the lamb, "How dare you muddle the water from which I am drinking?" "Nay, master, nay," said Lambikin. "If the water be muddy up there, I cannot be the cause of it, for it runs down from you to me." "Well then," said the wolf, "why did you call me bad names this time last year?" "That cannot be," said the lamb. "I am only 6 months old." "I don't care," snarled the wolf. "If it was not you, it was your father." And with that he rushed upon the poor little lamb and ate her all up. But before she died, she gasped out and said, "Any excuse will serve a tyrant." The Dog and the Shadow. It happened that a dog had gotten a piece of meat and was carrying it home in his mouth to eat it in peace. Now, on his way home, he had to cross a plank lying across a running brook. As he crossed, he looked down and saw his own shadow reflected in the water beneath. Thinking that it was another dog with another piece of meat, he made up his mind to have that also. So he made a snap at the shadow in the water, but as he opened his mouth, the piece of meat fell out, dropped into the water, and was never seen again. Beware lest you lose the substance by grasping at the shadow. The Lion's Share. The lion went once a-hunting along with the fox, the jackal, and the wolf. They hunted and hunted till at last they surprised a stag, and soon took down its life. Then came the question, how will the spoil be divided? "Quarter me this stag," roared the lion. So the other animals skinned it and cut it into 4 parts. Then the lion took his stand in front of the carcass and pronounced judgment. "The first quarter is for me in my capacity as king of the beasts. The second is mine as arbiter. Another share comes to me for my part in the chase. And as for the 4th quarter, well, as for that, I should like to see which of you will dare to lay a paw upon it." "Humph!" grunted the fox as he walked away with his tail between his legs, but he spoke in a low growl. "You may share the labors of the great, but you will not share the spoil." The Wolf and the Crane. A wolf had been gorging on an animal that he had just killed, when suddenly a small bone in the meat stuck in his throat and he could not swallow it. He soon felt terrible pain in his throat and ran up and down groaning and groaning, seeking for something to relieve the pain. He tried to induce every one he met to remove the bone. "I would give anything," said he, "if you would take it out." At last the crane agreed to try, and told the wolf to lie on his side and open his jaws as wide as he could. Then the crane put its long neck down the wolf's throat, and with its beak loosened the bone till at last the bone came out. "Will you kindly give me the reward you promised?" said the crane. The wolf grinned and showed his teeth and said, "Be content. You have put your head inside a wolf's mouth and have taken it out again in safety. That ought to be enough reward for you." Gratitude and greed go not together. The Man and the Serpent. A countryman's son by accident trod upon a serpent's tail, which turned and bit him so that he died. The father, in a rage, got his axe, pursued the serpent, and cut off part of its tail. So the serpent, in revenge, began stinging several of the farmer's cattle, and caused him severe loss. Well, the farmer thought it best to make it up with the serpent, and brought food and honey to the mouth of its lair. He said to it, "Let's forget and forgive. Perhaps you were right to punish my son, and take vengeance on my cattle, but surely I was right in trying to revenge him. Now that we are both satisfied, why should we not be friends again?" "No, no," said the serpent. "Take away your gifts. You can never forget the death of your son, nor I the loss of my tail. Injuries may be forgiven, but never forgotten." The Town Mouse and the Country Mouse. Now, you must know that a town mouse once upon a time went on a visit to his cousin in the country. He was rough and ready, this cousin, but he loved his town friend and made him heartily welcome. Beans and bacon, cheese and bread were all he had to offer, but he offered them freely. The town mouse rather turned up his long nose at the country fare and said, "I cannot understand, cousin, how you can put up with such poor food as this, but of course you cannot expect anything better in the country. Come with me, and I will show you how to live. When you have been in town for a week, you will wonder how you could ever have stood a country life." No sooner said than done. The two mice set off for the town and arrived at the town mouse's residence late at night. "You will want some refreshment after our long journey," said the polite town mouse, and took his friend into the grand dining room. There they found the remains of a fine feast, and soon the two mice were eating up jellies and cakes and all that was nice. Suddenly they heard growling and barking. "What is that?" said the country mouse. "It is only the dogs of the house," answered the other. "Only," said the country mouse. "I do not like that music at my dinner." Just at that moment the door flew open, in came two huge mastiff dogs, and the two mice had to scamper down and run off. "Goodbye, cousin," said the country mouse. "What? Going so soon?" said the other. "Yes," he replied. "Better beans and bacon in peace than cakes and ale in fear." The Fox and the Crow. A fox once saw a crow fly off with a piece of cheese in its beak and settle on a branch of a tree. "That's for me, as I am a fox," said Master Reynard, as he walked up to the foot of the tree. "Good day, Mistress Crow," he cried. "How well are you looking today? How glossy your feathers and how bright your eyes! I feel sure your voice must surpass that of other birds, just as your figure does. Let me hear but one song from you that I may greet you as the Queen of Birds." The crow lifted up her head and began to caw her best, but the moment she opened her mouth, the piece of cheese fell to the ground, only to be snapped up by Master Fox. "That will do," said he. "That was all I wanted. In exchange for your cheese, I will give you a piece of advice for the future. Do not trust flatterers." The Sick Lion. A lion had come to the end of his days, and lay sick unto death at the mouth of his cave, grasping for breath. The animals, his subjects, came round him and drew nearer as he grew more and more helpless. When they saw him on the point of death, they thought to themselves, "Now is the time to pay off old grudges." So the boar came up and drove at him with his tusks. Then a bull gored him with his horns. Still the lion lay helpless before them. So the donkey, feeling quite safe from danger, came up, turned his tail to the lion, and kicked his heels right into the lion's face. "This is a double death," growled the lion. "Only cowards insult dying majesty."